Good afternoon, everybody. On behalf of Manila House, this is Bambina Wise, the Director of Programming. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today for this talk on the economic outlook for the Philippines for 2021 with none other than Solita Monsod, more popularly known as Winnie Monsod or Maring Winnie, if you catch her on radio and TV. I think, the Philippine economy has had a few shocks. It remains under siege due to COVID. And today we heard the news that the Shangri-La Hotel in Makati will temporarily close from February 1, 2021. So that's caused a little bit of alarm and trepidation for all of us. The economy, as you know, contracted sharply in 2020, especially in the second quarter, with GDP shrinking 17%. Though the contraction in the third quarter was a little softer at 15.2%. However, hope springs eternal, and the forecasts all point to economic recovery this year. Here to tell us more is the economist and educator, Solita Monsod. Just by way of introduction, let me just tell you, Solita Collas-Monsod is Professor Emeritus of Economics at the University of the Philippines School of Economics. She's a prominent educator, economist, broadcaster, writer, and political analyst. Popularly known as Maring Winnie, Professor Monsod has been teaching at the UP School of Economics since 1963. Her commitment to teaching and public service earned her the Most Outstanding Alumna Award for 2005, given by the UP Alumni Association. She served as Director General of the National Economic and Development Authority and Secretary of Socioeconomic Planning under President Corazon Aquino from 1986 to 1989. So I turn you over now to Winnie, Professor Monsod, and she'll give a short presentation and a talk, and then we'll open up to questions after that. You can put your questions in the chat box or in the Q&A box below. So Professor Monsod, I turn over to you.
Thank you very much, sweetie. You know, you were breaking up
I know, I'm
when you
sorry
were
about that.
introducing me. I could not hear you, but I hope that doesn't happen while I'm making my presentation. But anyway, thanks for coming, folks. And I wish I could say that hope springs eternal and it's going to be fulfilled. But you be the judge. Here is my presentation. You are going to have to pardon me because I am okay. Let's.
Oh, there you go.
Can you see this now?
Yes.
Okay, that's my talk. The Philippine political economy 2021. Uh, Challenges and opportunities. Mostly challenges. Very simple outline. I have to look back at 2020 to be able to establish the base for moving forward to 2021, and we will discuss the challenges, and there are opportunities too. So let's start right away. Looking back at 2020, the grim reality, folks, the grim reality is that the Philippines was the worst performing country in Southeast Asia as far as the economy is concerned. And the other grim reality is that the Philippines was also the worst performing in Southeast Asia insofar as handling the pandemic is concerned. What is my basis for saying that? I you know it it comes from, let's look at it. Number one, for the economy, let's look at the evidence, the projected 2020 growth rates in developing East Asia by the World Bank. I just lifted this from the World Bank report, and it shows the growth rates for 2020 projected. Uh, Vietnam, they project Vietnam to be positive, China to be positive. This is the zero, and everything is negative after that. And here we are down here in the Philippines, and Thailand looks like it's the worst. But two things. This was done with the second quarter data. The third quarter, as it happens, The Philippines contracted by 11.5% in the third quarter, and Thailand contracted by only 6.4%. So this has been changed. All right. So here is the Philippines, the worst performing among these countries. Now, what's the other evidence? Well, let's talk about the IMF, for example. They have projections too for 2020. Now you look at this and my God, so you're saying, my God, it's so small. What is she trying to do to us? Well, here you can see this. You have the Philippines growing at negative 8.3. But I'll make it simpler. I'll show this. Here is what the IMF says. And you can see Myanmar, China, Vietnam, Laos positive. Everybody else is negative. And guess who's the largest negative? Us, 8.3. That is World Bank and IMF. That has nothing to do with me. Now, so IMF predicts that our 2020 growth will be negative 8.3. World Bank predicts that our growth will be negative 6.9. What does the Philippine government say? Let's look at this. What does the Philippine government say? Well, the Development Budget Coordination Committee of the Philippine government, NEDA board, predicts has predicted that the growth in 2020 will be between minus 8.5% to minus 9.5%. In other words, our own government predicts that our performance will be worse than the performance predicted by the World Bank or the IMF. This is very unusual, but this is what the Development Budget Coordination Committee said just last month. All right, 8.5 to 9%. That's for 2020. So you say, well, let's go ahead. With respect to the second situation where I said the Philippines is the worst performing among its ASEAN neighbors insofar as controlling the pandemic is concerned, actually, it is among the worst performing in the world. What is the basis for my saying that? Is it my own? No. My basis is the Lancet COVID-19 Commission statement before the UN 75th General Assembly. This was last September. What is the Lancet COVID-19 Commission? Commission that was set up, headed by Dr. Jeff Sachs and about 27 other people from all over the world, studying the COVID-19, finding out what can be done about it, what etc. etc. In other words, they are the ones. They're scheduled to make another report this January. What did they say? Here is the table. This is the Lancet Commission of countries, and they are ranked according to the handling of the pandemic. All right. Anytime you want to ask questions, folks, go right ahead and ask. I will make it bigger, but just look at the the the, the colors. Blue stands for countries that have practically suppressed the pandemic according to certain criteria. They have number of cases per day, rate of reproduction per day, rate of reproduction, etc. Number of cases per million per day. And these countries here are those who have suppressed, and these countries here have very low COVID. These countries in the middle are the moderate, and you have the high, and you have the highest, the high and the very high. Okay, what's the good news? Where is the Philippines among all this? The Philippines is here, right here. All right. The good news is that, my God, we have performed better than the United States, Spain, etc. All these countries below. We have performed better than that. Oh, what is the bad news? We have performed worse. All these countries here are all ASEAN countries. This one is Taiwan, not ASEAN, but Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, etc. Indonesia is somewhere here. Ah, I cannot see. It's so small, but here is, where is Indonesia? Here, here is Indonesia. Tignan mo, ang layo-layo natin. Here we are. Where is the Philippines? Number 66. Here is the Philippines. We are number 66 of 91 countries they rank. Why did they rank only 91 countries? Because these were the countries that had the data they needed. The Philippines was number 66. We are in the we are in the bottom third. And where is the rest of our Asian neighbors? They're in the top 10%, and Indonesia is here. All right. So that's where we are. That's how the COVID-19 Commission, Lancet COVID, ranked the Philippines. Totally unprepared. Okay, let's see what this says. 66 out of 91 countries, according to where were its neighbors, I said already. Fine. Now, why did we fail? What were the reasons that Lancet said we failed? Not just us, but why in where we did not do very well in pandemic control? Well, the Lancet Commission said that the countries that failed in pandemic control was because of their failure to implement the basic package of non-pharmaceutical interventions. What are those? Social distancing, etc., etc. Those are all non-pharmaceutical, which obviously, because we don't have pharmaceutical like vaccinations at the time, we depended on these non-pharmaceutical interventions. And then they talked about the high inequality in the countries, which exacerbates social tension. And then, interestingly, they talked about a style of political leadership which they termed medical populism, where political leaders simplifying the were simplifying the pandemic by downplaying its impacts, touting easy solutions, spectacularizing the response, etc. And what is interesting is that the three case studies that were brought to the United Nations attention were three presidents: the United States President Donald Trump, the Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte, and Brazilian President uh, Jair Bolsonaro. Listen, I'm not the one saying this. It's a study quoted by the Lancet. And if you will notice, I mean, just 2 or 3 days ago, President Duterte made claims like the Pfizer vaccine now killed 25 people. I, I tried to look where it's, whether that was true, and I could only find out one uh, possible one in Florida, a doctor, and they're still looking into it. All right, that's the kind of thing, you know, making making medical statements completely without basis. So, and the fourth is that there was a scarcity of quality research and shortages of key medical equipment and supplies in these countries. That was the reason. So let's repeat. To repeat, supported by evidence, the Philippines was the worst performing in Southeast Asia insofar as the economy was concerned, and the Philippines was also the worst performing among its Southeast Asian neighbors insofar as handling the pandemic is concerned. All right? Is there any relationship between the two? And the answer is yes. There is a relationship between economic performance and pandemic performance. It is a direct positive one. There's no such thing as a trade off. People were saying there's a trade off between lives and livelihood. No. I was just listening to the CNN today, and that was what one of the advisors of Biden was saying. You know, you cannot open the economy, you cannot start the economy without fixing the lives, the health of people. So, and that there's one, a study by two of my colleagues in the UP School of Economics brings this out very unequivocally. They studied the correlates of the fall in GDP growth in 2020 from 2019 across 21 countries in ASEAN plus three, and including Australia and New Zealand. They found that ceteris paribus, stronger, everything else remaining the same, stronger national capacities to detect and respond to emerging outbreaks are associated with better economic outcomes. And moreover, the improvements, I mean, very specific capacities, such as laboratory systems, may matter more. These laboratory systems are part of the international health regulations of the WHO. That's what they said. In other words, you gotta handle the pandemic if you want good economic performance. And this is what they said. Let me quote from the study by my two colleagues. One of those colleagues, by the way, is my daughter. And the other is Corina Bautista, who is chair of the department. Our results suggest that a dearth in health system capacity should be prioritized over and above any other type of spending, including traditional stimulus. They're saying, don't do infrastructure. You do first. If you have, if you don't have enough money, you make sure that your health system is improved. Our results also underscore the need to rethink what is necessary for the stability and resilience of the economy. What are the economic fundamentals in an area of global physical shocks, including, by the way, those brought about by climate hazards. And they said, given physical shocks, efficient and prepared, efficient and prepared government institutions matter. A macroeconomy is not resilient if these are not. So, I mean, that should explain why in April last year, our Secretary of Finance kept on saying, we have strong economic fundamentals, which we do. We have strong economic fundamentals, and there is no reason why this country should not have a positive growth rate. Well, at the end of the year, they said the economy will grow or will contract by 8.5 to 9.5%. All right. So I want to underscore. So it's not the timing, it's not the intensity, it's not the length of a country's lockdown per se. It is the inadequate core capacities. This has to do with governance, ladies, to detect and respond to the COVID-19 outbreak. And that is what accounts for the poor economic outcome of the Philippines relative to its regional neighbors. With that, what's in store for 2021 and after? Well, let's consult the World Bank, the IMF, and the DBCC. That is that's us. Of course, the World Bank. And the World Bank said, remember, the World Bank, we were contracting 6.9%, the lowest contraction. He said, the World Bank said we will grow by 5.3% in 2021. And in 2022, we will grow by 5.6. The IMF said, remember the IMF predicted a steeper decline in 2020. We'll grow by 7.4% in 2021. And the DPC said naman, well, we will grow by 6.5 to 7.5% in 2021. And then we will grow by 8 to 10% in 2022. All right? 5.3, 7.4, 6.5. Because we were different bases. Itong World Bank, ang base natin sa 2020 is 6.9. IMF is 8.4 and DBCC is 8.5 to 9.5. Okay, so we're going to get this. Are we going to get any of this? Let's look. Okay, let's translate that into numbers. What was the 2019 Philippine GDP constant at 2018 prices? Our GDP was all this, which is 19 followed by 12 digits, is it's actually 19.4 trillion pesos. That was our GDP 2019. What was the predicted GDP by 2020? The World Bank 18.3 trillion, the IMF 17.76 trillion, and DBC 16 to 17.72. Notice our government predicted a lower growth, a steeper contraction actually in 2020. So what is the forecast of the World Bank for 2021? 18.99 trillion, IMF 19.08, and the Philippines 18.8 to 18.87, 18.84 to 18.87. Looks pretty close, but the IMF is larger. You know, this is what you call the reason why it becomes larger is because they call it the law of base effects. You start with a lower base, naturally your growth rate is larger. But one thing that must be noticed is that our 2021 growth rate will bring our GDP still not enough to be equal to the 2019 GDP. So we have already lost 2 years. And you know, usually the 2019 should be growing, but in 2021 we will not even with these forecasts of the World Bank, the IMF, and the DBCC, we will not even be able to achieve what we had in 2019. That's very important. And well, by 2020 we will have exceeded it. By 2022 we will have exceeded it according to this forecast. But you know, the forecast, the farther away they are, the, the more difficult they are to achieve. Okay, so that's it. I just wanted to show this to you because I wanted to say that with the forecasts that we got from the World Bank, the IMF, and the DBCC, our GDP for 2021 will not even be equal to what it was 2 years before. That's a very important I thought. All right. Now, when they forecast these numbers, ito, 5.3, IMF 7.4, etc. What is behind those forecasts? Very important. The World Bank assumes, one, that the Philippines successfully manages, in other words, for the Philippines to grow, to achieve that GDP, the Philippines will have successfully managed COVID transmission, or that no major spikes in cases lead to further lockdowns by early 2021. We're early 2021, folks. B, the businesses and households regain confidence. And the title of the World Bank paper is Assistance to Vulnerable Households and Small Businesses are the key to mitigating pandemic's impact and hastening recovery in the Philippines. So for the World Bank growth rate and the GDP of 2021 to be achieved, it assumes that we have successfully managed COVID and that we are concentrating on vulnerable households, small businesses. The IMF says actually the same thing, They're, but in a different manner. Their forecast says will go downward if there is a second or third wave of the pandemic, if US-China tensions spanning trade, financial flows, well, we can do nothing about that. And if social tensions rise because of the pandemic's disproportionate effect on the poorest and most vulnerable. In other words, they're saying concentrate on the poorest and most vulnerable, like the World Bank. And and the IMF says there's return, if there is a return to tighter financial conditions, cancel balut, all right? Because it will mean small and medium enterprises will fail. So that's what's behind the numbers. The numbers are not just there and, we're going to achieve them. We can achieve them, says the World Bank and the IMF, if we successfully manage COVID and if we concentrate on the vulnerable uh, households and small businesses. So let's skip that. Again, remember, we will be able to achieve the 2021 GDP if we have controlled the pandemic. So the question is, have we? And then we are, and if we are concentrating on the poorest and most vulnerable, and the question is, are we doing that? And the third question is, does the government have the implementation capability? Does, is it, does it manage well? Is there good governance? We'll, we, are, we are going to see about this. How can we see about this? Well, we can see about this looking at what the government is going to use its resources on in 2021. That is the 2021 national budget. So the questions we ask ourselves when we look at the 2021 budget is our health system capacity prioritized over and above any other type of spending, including traditional stimulus, in other words, large scale infrastructure spending, because that is what is recommended by the World Bank. And more specifically, do we have a detailed vaccine deployment plan? Do we know where and how many vaccinations will be given? Will 2022 will we really, you know, totally suppress COVID-19 in 2021 so that 2022 will be truly post-pandemic? And second question is, has priority been given to assistance to vulnerable households? So how do we find out for ourselves? Well, let's look at what the government says. This is a quote from the government. Sabi natin ng ating gobyerno, the fiscal year 2021 budget serves as the heftiest stimulus package for the economy, thus enabling public spending to stimulate economic recovery. It is based on the sound fiscal policy of spending within means, on the right priorities, and with measurable results under a regime of a transparent, accountable, and participatory governance. Ang theme nitong ating 2021 budget is reset, rebound, recover. Galing no. So anyway, that's what they said. I'm quoting that from, what is it? The press release of the Department of Budget and Management, which was brought out just last month. Okay, but you know, let's look at the budget. I'm going to ask you to look at the 600, 700 page thing. But the I Lead, it is a think tank, wrote in the Rappler, analyzed the budget in the Rappler, and I'm showing you what it showed. Here is the summary of the 2021 budget changes. In other words, from 2020. In other words, we're looking at the budget and showing where the amounts are going. So it has a budget item. This is how you read this graph, folks. All right, this is where the money is going to be spent, and this is the line. This is zero. So if it's past that line, that means the 2021 budget is greater than the 2020 budget. And this is the percentage change. So they not only give you the amounts, but the percentage change. So this is a very big figure. And then there are changes in the 2021 budget. The 2021 budget is smaller than the 2020 budget. So let's look at this. I'll make it big so you can see. What is the biggest change? Positive change. The largest positive change from the 2021 budget is infrastructure, DPWH. Build, build, build. The DPWH's budget, this is 2021 budget compared to the 2020 budget plus the Bayanihan one, which was what they added for the COVID, and the Bayanihan 2. All right? So they are comparing really apples to apples. Infrastructure, build, build, build. And you know, if you see how well, 58%. Education, 5%. So really, it's almost nothing. DepEd, this is primary education, 4%. State universities and colleges, 16%, etc. Now, let's look to the negative. All right. Well, there's tourism, minus 31. There's environment, minus 7%. There's SB Corporation. Ano yung SB Corporation na yan? That is the Small Business Corporation. Its budget was decreased by 86%. Remember what the World Bank and the IMF says? You got to concentrate on the vulnerable, the small businesses, small and medium businesses. Ayan. I mean, when I saw this, I really was in a state of shock. Labor and employment, these are the amounts, these involve the amounts that were used to help the unemployed. Their budget was decreased by 21%. DTI, and that is trade and industry, 19 billion, because trade and industry includes 9 SB Corporation. Agriculture, they decreased agriculture's budget. Most of the poor come from agriculture. And this budget that was taken from them was the budget was given to the farmers who had lost their incomes. Health, do you do you see what has happened? They decreased health budget by 16%. No, 23%. This is health including the PHIC. They decreased the health budget by 23%. And what is the biggest decrease? Can you see that? The biggest decrease was social welfare and development, 204. That is the vulnerable. In other words, it seems like this budget just didn't care what was being told by the IMF, by the World Bank, by my colleagues in the School of Economics. You can see it for yourselves. No, I tell you, if you look at what the budget department says, you'll think, my God, they're doing so well, etc. But this is the analysis. This is the comparison. This was made by, I said, I lead, and it was published in the Rappler, and I can vouch for the lead author of this piece. He is a summa cum laude graduate of the University of the Philippines. He is a PhD candidate, and his co-authors are as young. They're the executive director. They have studied this budget tremendously. They actually studied the budget as was the original budget, and they came out with the same things. So they thought that their analysis would at least bring about changes, but no. So they said, why is the biggest amount? Why did the Department of Public Works increase? I mean, why was their budget increased by 58%, for God's sake? And then the analyst said, well, it may have something to do with the fact that next year, 2022, is an election year. So this whole budget looks to be based on what is politically expedient for our leaders than what is necessary for the Philippines to be able to overcome the pandemic and to recover, to reset, rebound, and recover. That's all talk and nothing else. Do you agree with me? This is the picture, and it's worth 1,000 words. Positive, public works. Negative, the vulnerable. That's it. Now, with respect to the vaccine development plan, of course you have deployment plan. Of course you have been following what has been going on this recent. But here is so. This is a Department of Finance picture. And they said, oh, wow, we have 2.5 billion that is in the budget. And then there's 10 billion because it was unspent from last year's Bayanihan 2. There's 10 billion. And then there's 70 billion. And this will be for vaccination. Just go. It turns out the 70 billion is not funded. It will only be funded if there's more revenues than expected this year. So this is an if. In other words, we have 12.5 billion pesos. Do you think? And that's just for the vaccination. That has nothing to do with the infrastructure needed for the vaccination. The cold storage, etc., etc. Nothing. So, what we have learned so far, let me summarize. The government has not put in enough resources to manage the pandemic. 2, the government has not put in enough resources to protect the most vulnerable. And the basis are the slides I showed you beforehand. This is not my conclusion. This is the conclusion you will make if you studied the whole thing. And for the question, does the government have the ability to implement or manage with whatever programs it has? Has it at least improved since it has come in? Well, I will show you. To answer this third question, I refer you to the Philippine Statistics Authority, and it has what is called StatDev. That is short for Statistical Indicators for Philippine Development. Every year, this Philippine Statistics Authority through StatDev monitors the performance of the Philippine government on the achievement of its Philippine development plan. And one of those goals is to improve governance in the Philippines government. Let us see what has happened so far. And this was as of 2020, July. selected governance indicators, lalakihan ko na naman. This is taken straight from the monitoring of the StatDev. I will read it to you. These are just some, all right? But it says here, the percentile rank in the World Governance Indicators, control of corruption indicator. What did the Philippine Development Plan, what did Mr. Duterte want to do? He wanted to increase our percentile rank from 42nd percentile in 2015 to the 50th percentile in 2022. What was it? 42nd percentile in 2015. Sa 2018, naging 34th percentile na lang tayo. Imbes na tayo tumaas, bumaba pa. That is control of corruption. And then there is a percentile rank in the Corruption Perception Index. That is a CPI. And we started with, we were in the 43rd percentile, and we also wanted to go to 50th percentile. What happened on the way? We went down from 43 to 37. Instead of going up, we went down. In other words, and here is the faces, a sad face. This is the StatDev itself saying what is the likelihood of achieving the PDP target? Very not likely at all. I'll show you another to show you how our governance has improved or deteriorated according to the monitoring of the Philippine Statistics Authority, StatDev. Here is another percentile rank. Effectiveness. Percentile rank in the World Governance Indicators. Government effectiveness. Has government effectiveness increased? Well, our percentile rank in 2015 was 58. And we just wanted it to increase to 60th. We just wanted to go up 2 percentile points in the percentile ranking. What happened to us? We went down to 55. Again, down. This is not, again, my analysis. This is here, that's the monitoring. We wanted to right size the national government. We wanted to pass the National Government Right Sizing Act. Since 50, we wanted to accomplish it by 2022. Well, it looks like we're not going to be accomplishing. Nobody is talking about it because that's where everybody puts their godsons and goddaughters. Here is another one. Percentile rank in the World Governance Indicators, Voice and Accountability. We were in the 52nd percentile. We wanted to go to the 60th percentile. Where did we land in as of the 47th percentile? 52nd to 47. That's it. That shows you. Are we doing well in trying to improve our government management capabilities and our government's capabilities? And the answer is no. Again, I am using these are government the government tables. You see all those sour faces? That's it. That shows you. So what is the upshot? Based on the available evidence, obviously, it doesn't look like the forecasted growth rates for 2021 will be met. Unless, and this is where we come in, unless we take it upon ourselves to do what we can. Forget the government. It's doing all its other things. Can we do something about it? Yes, we can. I was thinking about it, and I was saying to myself, you know, what we're trying to do is control the pandemic. And we have been, I mean, other countries have been able to control the pandemic even without the vaccine. by merely, I mean, not merely, by doing its non-pharmaceutical, social distancing, etc. There are other things, safe schooling, safe everything. Surely we, I mean, individuals, as organizations or anything, can can do something, adopt a barangay, make sure that that barangay suppresses or controls the pandemic. If all of us does the same, does that, we are going to, we may not need, well, we, of course, we need the government because it has the resources, but at least we can do something. We are not going to be helpless and say, my God, I'm going to kill myself because this thing is so depressing. Well, it is depressing, but it can be made more optimistic if we worked harder. I mean, ladies, the burden really has come on us again. I hope we are able to meet the challenge because do you think President Duterte will change? Do you think the management will change? Do you think Congress will change? We can change it in 2022. I hope. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Winnie. Hang on, let me put it on gallery view. Shall we turn off the,
Yeah, I will.
oops,
You are screen sharing, stop share.
yeah, stop share. Great. Let's do a gallery view. Thank you for that. That was very comprehensive and also a little bit depressing, to put it mildly. But obviously, I know it's all based on empirical
Of
data,
course,
and you
I
know,
did not. I
the
did not
numbers
use
don't
my
lie.
own
Put it that way.
opinion.
Yeah. I think, do we have any questions? I'm sure there are questions. I wanted to just ask you for a little bit of clarification. What does right sizing mean? I've never quite heard of that particular
Meaning
commission.
to say, they're trying to right size. They don't want to say downsize.
Oh,
Kasi masyadong maraming government employees. So they're trying to right size it. That's what they call it.
okay. So
And
the bureaucracy.
can you imagine they wanted that done in 2050? They wanted it to be done by 2020, 2022, and nothing has been done about it, about the right sizing, because too many politicians are involved.
Okay. So you're talking about streamlining the bureaucracy. Is that it?
Yes,
Okay.
that's well, making it more lean and mean, I suppose.
Yeah. But the thing about the DPH, the build, 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 which how do they expect to build all the things they intend to build, the roads and the buildings and
Well,
whatever, without a workforce that's healthy?
their rationale is that this program, 254 billion,
Mm-hmm.
will create employment, additional employment, about 1.1 million people. Can you imagine how much money it needs to be spent to create one job? 254 divided by 1 million is 254 million. 254 million. No, 254,000 pesos to create one job.
And
I mean, these multilateral organizations have already said, you know, this kind of this kind of situation where the shock to the economy is a physical shock. It's not a financial shock. Remember, like we had a debt crisis, we had foreign exchange crisis, etc. It's not. It's a health shock, and therefore, what is needed is to solve the health problem so that you can recover. That's why Secretary Dominguez was so off in his in his projection, he said in April last year, naku, walang problema yan. We have strong fundamentals, and we do have strong fundamentals. We are going to grow positively. How can we grow positively? The government itself said we're going to contract this year by 8.5 to 9.5%, more than what the World Bank and the IMF estimated.
Yeah, it looks a bit bleak, doesn't it?
I'm no, but I really mean it when I say that uh, we just got to do it
Mhm. But
neighborhood by neighborhood.
but that 70 billion that the government was expecting for the vaccines, are they expecting the private sector to pitch in then, like they've done in the past?
Fine. That's no. This is only government expenditures.
Mhm.
If the who will pitch in? Joey Concepcion? I don't know. It will. They will. But that 70 billion pesos is a contingent on whether the government is going to be able to increase its revenues more than it is expected to. And you know that is, I mean, that is very doubtful. That is what is, I mean, that has been brought out. Ano ba itong 70 billion? Sabi nga ni Drilon, ano ba yung 70 billion na yan? Eh, wala, you know, sabi ni Senator Angara raw, well, the Secretary of Finance assured me that there will be money. And that's it. That's the basis.
Just assurance, a verbal assurance.
Like Trump, ano?
I
Go
have
ahead.
a question here from Genevieve Ledesma. Do you think populism will continue past the 2022 regime? And what impact does a populist authoritarian government have on the Philippine economic outlook?
Well, we've already seen what it has done uh, when, when it comes to the crunch and we find out that we don't have the management capabilities or the administrative capabilities, and that it has actually been going down since the beginning of the Duterte administration. How do I know that? I just showed you the the some of the indicators. They've gone down rather than improve. And these are governance, and that is one of the pillars of the Duterte program. That he's going to improve that he's going to fight corruption, he's going to improve government, etc. And it has not happened. So, will what is the effect of this populism? Just look at what the effect of the populism in Brazil is, what the effect of populism in the United States is.
Mhm.
We can't have it. But I mean, please, I just want to say that the populism does not mean it's just popular with the poor people. President Duterte is very popular with the rich, as shown by your as shown by your what do you call it, surveys.
Mm.
In fact, a greater proportion of the rich, class A and class AB, voted for him than the proportion of the poor that voted for him. So you don't tell. I mean, because everybody's saying no, it's the poor. We have to, make voting more difficult. That's not true. The evidence shows that he is just as popular. So you ask yourself, why is President Duterte very popular with the rich? And since all of you come from rich, you ask yourselves that.
Okay, now this is from Dennis Alag. Also have gentlemen actually, so we're not all ladies
Oh,
here.
I'm sorry. I thought it
No,
was
that's fine.
a ladies thing. Sorry, folks.
No, no problem. He's saying now, if you are appointed as one of the economic advisors of President Duterte for this reset and rebound and recover program, what are the first three action plans you will propose so that the government can achieve its target?
Well, first, they have to consult. I mean, they're not consulting the experts. They're not doing it by evidence-based. I don't, it's, you look up at the ceiling and you think about, oh, that's the number, I'll do it. I mean, we have to be evidence-based. The evidence showed us, the, I mean, the study of 21 countries showed us that economic recovery it will be contingent on physical health recovery. Jesus, nothing, and nobody paid attention. This recovery, please do not concentrate on physical infrastructure. You can't, because because why? Because the evidence shows that the physical infrastructure, the build program of this administration has been so slow. If you look at the graph showing what the money that was being uh, uh, allotted for it and what actually was spent, you'll see this tremendous. It's in Rappler. It's in Rappler. Rappler has a graph that shows the difference between what they wanted to spend and what they actually spent. And here, and that was supposed, and this one is supposed to create 1 million jobs. Well, how many? I don't understand. They just wanted to. Let's face it. There's a 2022 elections coming in. And can you imagine if they spent all that money in 2021? That's it. That's the politics of it. That's why I called my presentation political economy.
How do you think, though, the recovery will be? Because you're talking about a K-shaped recovery from the pandemic. This is from Ronald Suarez.
I'm sorry.
No, asking
Can you repeat
if there's talk about a K-shaped recovery. Do you know that, would you be able to say what sectors would recover more quickly than the others? Well, construction, I suppose, based on their priority.
No. This is how it goes. People cannot go to their jobs. People get sick. Their productivity goes down. And the whole thing spirals downwards. But I did not answer what are the three things I would do. I would say first, get me the so-called technocrats. And I don't want any political interference to come in. I don't want my choices to be influenced by what the speaker of the house wants and what the senator of the whatever it is. And once I have them, I'm going to give them, I mean, all my what do you call it, confidence. President Duterte, I mean, during his last interview, he said, he's chairman of his task force, you know. This is how he introduced the chairman of his task force. Oh, this is General Galvez. He's the hero of Marawi. And my question is, what does Marawi have to do with COVID, for God's sake? Tell me what else his other accomplishments are, what his vitae is. And maybe I'll accept it more. And what did General Galvez sabi kasi, they were answering Ping Lacson kasi yung the suspicion that so much money is going to go through to bribes, the so-called kickbacks. And what did with General Valdez, what's his name, Galvez say? He said, the money does not go through me. No, I don't touch the money at all. So that's as if to say, if the money doesn't go through him, that means no bribe is going to occur, because the World Bank is going to pay the supplier. Yeah, but when the World Bank pays the supplier, what does it have any influence on what the supplier does with what he has gotten? Do you remember when we had problems with this budget in pork barrel? Ayun rin ang sinabi ng mga kongresista natin eh. Sabi nila, wala, hindi naman dumadaan sa amin yung pera. Paano kami makakakuha dyan? Wala kaming daan. Ay, sus ko, napakabobo nyo ba? I mean, do you think we are so stupid? You give the contractor and the contractor pays you, hindi ba? Sus. So I was not at all assured by the president's statement. And when the president said that the Pfizer has 25 deaths on its hand, the Pfizer, while the Sinovac has nothing. So all you have to do is look at the Google and look at all the news about Sinovac, etc., and you will see that there are problems. Sinovac's efficacy is 50.36, and the minimum acceptable by the WHO is 50. That means if its efficacy is 50.36, that means its effectivity, which is its actual performance in real life, is going to be less than 50%. Now, why will we spend money on that?
It's also quite expensive, right? It's not as cheap as not as well priced.
Well, Sinovac, the firm, charged the people who in China $60 a dose, and it charged Indonesia $13 a dose. I am told that it costs Sinovac $5 a dose. I don't know about that $5 a dose. I have not seen it. I have not seen it verified, but that's it is $5 a dose. Just can you imagine? Can you imagine what could happen?
So you're saying there's a chance of herd immunity not being achieved because of the
there
lack.
is no chance. First, we have 12.5 billion pesos. 70 billion will come from excess revenues, and could be also from the loans from the World Bank, etc. But that will not be sufficient for to get we need for herd what do you call that, herd
immunity. 70%.
We need about 70 to 80%. 70% of 110 million people is about 77%, and is 77 million. 77 million times 2 doses. Wow. 154 million doses times how much? You'll see it will go way over the amount of money we have, and the amount of money that we will not receive it this year. You can just look at it from the point of view of what we have now. Sinovac, sabi ni Galvez, Sinovac will come in by February. It will come in. You know how many doses will come in February? 95,000 doses. And then, then 900,000 doses the next month, 1 million doses the next month, up to July. 80% of that 25 million doses will come in the second half. And we don't even know whether we will have. There's none. So we want transparency.
But
So
as you know, you're in Makati, Abby Binay, like various mayors around the metro have said, right, that they've already ordered a certain number of vaccines. And so us in Makati, we have AstraZeneca supposed to come. And I think that there'll be a registration setup, an online registration for Makati residents and Makati citizens, which is great, right?
The mayors, this is not the central government anymore. The mayors were trying to get vaccinations for their areas, but there was a there were impediments put forth by the national government. Kasi I don't know what happened. Ay, hindi ko alam eh. Hindi ko alam. But this is an example of people and local governments doing for themselves what the central government has not been able to do for them. And that's what the local governments are trying to do. But they have to have money for that. Makati is an, an aberration among our local governments. And so the people also have to come in. We really, it's amazing how much we are needed.
But we would need the government. I'm just taking off from a question from Lilette Monbio. We need the government to step in for the frontliners, right? The medical personnel and,
Yeah, and look what they did.
well, they
They
did
they
so
got back. This is management for you. They smuggled in coronavirus.
vaccines.
The vaccine. They gave it to the PSG, and then they lied about it. Pa.
Hmm.
And then the vaccine was also given to 100,000 members of the Chinese community. What happened to the frontliners?
Hmm.
Where were they? Why didn't the people say, wag muna kami, yung mga frontliners muna kung pwede? Hindi ba? That would be, real patriotism. Give it to them first.
Yeah, exactly. But do you see companies stepping up at some point to vaccinate their own, private companies vaccinating their own employees?
Yes. A study by the UP School of Economics, members of the UP School of Economics said, if corporations could just get together and, for example, with their tracing, with their contact tracing, in other words, just go around, but the corporations don't want to do it. They need guidelines from the interagency task force. And the interagency task force takes so long.
Yeah. Well, and they keep extending
Again,
the
it's not.
lockdown by 2 months or months or something, right? Or not the now. I think it's the travel ban, right? It's been extended to the 31st for incoming flight.
What? I beg your pardon?
I think the travel ban's been extended to the 31st of January, right? But it's a blanket ban, so people who are permanent residents of the Philippines can't even come back because they don't have Philippine passports. So that's also a little bit of a tricky. And these
What
people
is it?
have businesses here. They've invested in the country and they can't come back and contribute to the economy or pay their people.
I, I know people like that. I, you know, the UP task force compiled a, a volume, it's more than one volume, of the different policy statements that have been made with respect to the coronavirus. And they are sometimes contradictory, etc. It is a management problem. It is, like the study says, it is whether government institutions have the ability. What policy changes do you think? I don't.
Will UP be affected in the budget? I mean,
Ano?
can they threaten to cut UP's budget? We have this whole controversy now about UP, right? And the DND coming in, and that agreement that they had being unilaterally terminated.
Yeah. Well, the president makes a statement and it is taken as law by his people. The president does not like UP because it is left leaning. Naturally, it's academic freedom. You are free to to be attracted or not, but you are going to listen to what. I mean, they give you all the chances to listen and to say no or to say yes. I like that. I mean, I'm not going to go towards the left, but I will protect the right of of the left the ideologies to present their ideology, especially if the one that is actually obtaining now is not particularly does not particularly help them. What policy changes you think will happen with money? Given all the money? No, the government is not money printing, Genevieve. Uh, what policy changes do you think will happen with monetary policy? Given, actually I think the central bank, the Banco Central, has done the best. I mean, has performed the best in terms of policy. It has stood there and saying, we're ready to help you, the government. We're ready to buy your bonds because you need this to 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 improve your capabilities, and they have done it so well. My only my only uh, my only objection is they did not require their banks to share the goodies they receive with their customers. They only said that perhaps it will be the banks will see it in their hearts to be a little bit, you know, more, shall we say, generous. I'm sorry, I cannot agree with that. They should have said, we're going to do this if you continue with your employment, or if you do, conditionalities, very important. You leave it to their own voluntary uh, self control. Nothing is going to happen.
There's a question here from Christina Tan. What do you think of
Ay, sabi ni Corina pala, Corina, here, just a small correction. I'm not the current department chair. I was talking about Corina Bautista. Sorry, I didn't know Corina was in the audience. Go ahead.
Now, there's a question from Christina Tan. What do you think of the Create Bill? I don't know what the Create Bill is. Maybe you can.
Create bill, yes. I do not think very highly of it. It is there supposed to be that will give the small and medium industries. It's there to help the small and medium. Actually, it's there to help the large corporations. That's all there is to it. Why? Here we're needing, can you imagine, Bambina? We need revenues. The original bill, the Citra bill, etc., was a bill that was at least a neutral, meaning to say the money it would, the revenue amounts would not change. But this Create bill is no longer neutral. We are going to lose revenue because of the large tax deductions. I mean, not tax deduction, lower tax rates to the corporations. Mm-hmm. And this now will help the small corporations. Diyos ko po, pwede ba? It's the large corporations that are going to benefit from this. And we are doing this at a time when we need revenues. If they can show me that this Create bill is actually revenue neutral, I will accept it. But it's not. The original bill was revenue neutral. Ang dami-dami nilang ginawa. I am not in favor of it.
Is it when is it supposed to go
if
for?
Corina is here, she can talk about it. Yes. Corina, are you here?
Corina, if you want to unmute.
Okay.
I think she's gone.
Anyway,
we have one.
I'm sorry. It has all ang daming hype nila eh. Hype, it will do this for the poor, it will do this for the small. And actually, everybody knows it's there for the large corporations. You think the small corporations at this point in time will even have to pay, will have the money to pay taxes? They're losing money. For God's sake.
They weren't
Not the
given any
time.
tax breaks, no? The smaller. There haven't been any real um, tax breaks for smaller companies during this time, has there? No.
See, they say it's going to be for them. This is actually for them because when they, they will have pay less taxes, and then they can share, voluntarily share with their employees what they have saved. But the small corporations at this time are actually, making kapit to ko, trying to survive. So what tax deductions will they get?
Mm.
I mean, what income are they declaring in the first place? So you think it will help them? My goodness, just think of your.
No, but we see that a lot of
Okay.
I don't know what the word is, but the easing of financial burdens to a certain degree were done by the private sector, right? You have mall owners and operators that you know didn't collect rent during the whole time of the most severe time of the lockdown. So I,
What
has
about the
the
mall owners?
government done anything really in that sense to encourage smaller businesses to survive, to help them survive?
Sweetie, if you are in a mall and paying the kind of rents the malls charge, you cannot possibly be a small business.
Hmm.
I'm I mean, there are 900,000 or 1.3 million small businesses. About 900,000 of them are micro. Maliliit talaga. Hindi nila kaya yung mall. Diyos ko. What do you see in those malls, Bambina?
No, but I'm saying that the private sector was the
That,
one that did that for the malls. But what has the government done for smaller businesses, right?
yes, that's
Yeah.
true. Yes. Well, as I said, the small business corporation, the money that was supposed to go to the small business
Mm.
corporations this year, they reduced it by 9 billion pesos. I mean, uh,
In the
that
budget,
the
yeah.
slide is the most telling slide
Mm.
because it shows you
The priority.
exactly what the priorities are of this government. To reduce the Department of Health by 40%?
It doesn't make
Are
sense.
they kidding?
Mm.
To reduce the small business corporation by 86%? Are they kidding? What are they trying to do? They are trying to win next year's elections. That has nothing to do with economic recovery. Somebody will come and say, "Oh, you vote for me, and we will do the best we can for this economy." Oh, I mean,
But
President Duterte said he would stop corruption.
okay. But how do you
Corruption
win
is an easy.
elections? How do you win elections by saying you're going to build more roads when, I think you need to keep your population healthy if you want to win elections. So they'll be
Oh no,
alive.
no, 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 no. I mean, when people are desperate, they're willing to sell their votes.
Okay. Sad reality.
A growing middle class is going to reduce the power of the politicians. That's why I don't know which economist said, don't look at anything don't look at even GNP. You just look at how that middle class is growing. If the middle class is not growing, you'll not get anywhere.
And what is our middle class? Has it contracted? I think it's contracted, right?
Yeah. Well, according 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 to um, the middle class should be siempre, the 50th to the 70th percentile or
Mm.
40th to the 80th percentile. The problem is that the government has treated all the way up to the top 99.9% as middle class or even poor. Their poverty line is up to the 50th percentile. So that means there's no middle class, or the middle class is you and me.
Mhm.
Do you think we are middle class?
But then we're not enough of a force to actually.
Yeah, I mean, no, but I mean, they consider us middle class.
Mhm.
There are so many people who are so poor. The middle class is about maybe 10%. I think we're shrinking. I
Mm,
don't know. We'll have to check that.
yeah.
I really have not seen the data on the middle class.
Okay. Let's just take a couple more questions. I have one from Carmen Ong. Thanking you for teaching us today. And aside from adopt a barangay, can you share 3 practical ways that ordinary citizens like us can effectively reverse the bleak direction our country is heading to? So how do we
Well,
be agents of change?
in the medium term, you gotta vote correctly. In the short term, you gotta give till it hurts. I mean, and this is, to me, this is really sharing or teaching the people around you. You don't have to go to you don't have to have a big what you call soapbox. All you have to do is, well, I can't do, maybe I can do my barangay. If you don't want to get involved with your barangay, maybe I can do it with my neighbors. If I have a safe neighborhood, and everybody like me has a safe neighborhood, the whole Philippines will have a safe neighborhood. Don't you think? I mean, that's the situation. There's an old Indian saying, if everybody keeps the little space around us clean and healthy, all of us do it, then the whole country will be clean and healthy. And that means us doing the little things. It doesn't have to have a political resonance. It just has, I'll just keep my neighborhood clean. Or if my neighborhood is clean, then I will ask my neighbors to adopt a neighborhood that is not clean, and let's help them.
But
That's
how
something we
though?
can
I mean,
all do.
the question I have also is how do you, there's if you adopt the poorer barangays, space for them is at a premium, right? They don't have the luxury we have of really social distancing. They all live on top of each other in crowded, settlements and all that. How do we help them in that case?
Masks, we can, well, the idea occurred to me, but this is a really stupid idea. There are so many empty houses in my neighborhood. People are not living there. Can you imagine if you invited some people to live there? That is out totally out of the question. That will not happen. But certainly, I mean, we can, this what you call non-pharmaceuticals, we just give them more masks, give them more alcohol, etc. They cannot, we cannot get them out, but we can certainly, if they're sick, we can provide a quarantine place for them.
Mhm.
Di ba? I
True.
mean, you got to do those things. And then of course the contact tracing is so important. We are contact tracing. I knew the study of Corina and my daughter talked about, the contact tracing in the Philippines is up to about, I think, 20, when the actual contact tracing is more than 36. So it's very inefficient, and that's how you can suppress. We're all crowded here together. Let's at least try to be clean about it.
Having said that, though, I have to say that the new variant of the virus that just came into the country, it would appear that they've been able to trace to 10 people at least, who've been infected because of the 14-day quarantine, imposed quarantine. So I don't know if anyone slips
Well,
through the cracks, but at least there's an effort being done in that.
I just read that one of the consultants of the interagency said that with this new virus, our cases will go up to, you know 30,000 times more than it is. We have to improve our health capability, our systems, our lab systems, our contact tracing, etc. We cannot just do it by saying, oy, hindi kayo pwedeng lockdown kayo, lockdown.
Mm-hmm.
Cannot be. You have to trace them. You know, when are we supposed to eat this thing?
You can eat it. For those of you who ordered the cocktail set from
You
Manila
mean to
House.
say, you mean to say I'm the only one that has this?
No. We have a couple of some members have ordered also. So it's just, to go with the talk. Okay.
I thought there was a time when we would be eating together or something like that.
Let me just read Corina's comments. Corina, as you said, was part of the study that you we did
Yes.
for UP School of Economics. Corina wanted to say that you want to talk about how the BSP is trying to help the economy. It cannot be by increasing reserves through the banking system. It should instead be printing money by buying bonds from Treasury and pay directly for government expenditures on COVID. It shouldn't expect to raise 70 billion in tax revenues from the private sector that is already dying, if not already dead. And more from her, there's no demand from loans from banks, and bank profit margins are already thin. Cheap credit is
Hey,
not a
Muna,
problem.
no
November,
demand from loans from banks. Yeah, go ahead.
November bank loan growth is at a standstill. You cannot force banks to lend without endangering financial stability. Which makes sense.
You know, as I said, in this coronavirus pandemic, when the economy contracted by 16.5%, the banking system grew
Mhm.
by 7%. In other words, this is a time where it has to be sacrificed. The 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 central bank has already reduced the reserve requirements, etc. That's supposed to give the banks more leeway to lend. And they're saying the bank lending is low. Maybe the bank lending, I don't know whether it's the bank lending, the demand for bank loans that is low, or whether the bank does not lend as it should. In other words, they've got to reduce the requirements, and they've got to accept that there is going to be maybe, the loan repayment, the loan bad loans will go up from 97% to 99%. I mean, that there will be more bad loans, but you gotta help.
Mhm.
I mean, look at this. I was just talking to somebody who had sold their house, and then the pandemic struck, and the people had no money to pay for the house, and she said, "I'll give you 1 year grace period." She could afford it, and the banks can afford it. I'm talking here about doing giving of your, what do you call it, giving of yourself, not just of your excess. And I'm just saying, for the banks is okay, so your profits will go down. How many years have you had so much profits? Will you please do something for the country?
And you think they're in a
No,
position to do it?
you cannot, to me, you cannot have the same rules of credit now as you had before. There's so many, I mean, you just got to have confidence. You don't do it, they're really sink. I don't know, Corina. It's got to be more than just the usual rules. Why can't Corina talk?
I think she just left a
She's
message.
great.
She had to leave.
Mm. Okay.
Okay, so I think any last words? Give us some hope.
Well, I enjoyed talking to you. If you have any feedback or any suggestions about how you, I mean, individuals or organizations should help in improving the health capacity of the Philippines, I would love to hear it because it's not going to come from the government and we've got to do something.
Well, and also the health workers are at risk, right? They're not also adequately protected. So that impacts the
Ah,
whole health infrastructure.
well, the funny thing about it, Bambina, is if you see the, the press releases, you would think that we didn't have a single problem in the world. You heard what the press release said is the biggest fiscal stimulus program, and then pala negative.
Can we say something positive before we close?
Okay, I tell you, positive is we. It's us. We got to do it. When when the going gets rough, the women get going.
Mhm. Well, and the men also here, we have to say.
Well, the men they're there to protect the women. Kuno.
Good. All right. Thank you so much, Professor
Thank
Monsod.
you.
Thank you for joining us today. I hope all of you, you know,
And
learned.
please understand that this data I have is evidence based.
Mhm.
I mean, it's all data.
Well,
I
yeah, it's a
was
good
not.
point to
It was
be.
a single opinion on my part.
Yeah, no, but it's a realistic assessment of what's of where the economy is at and where we might be in the future. So it's a good starting point. So the years just.
I hope that we are all the IMF, the World Bank, all the economists that I've talked to are wrong because they're saying, you know, we maybe can grow even with all these conditions. I doubt it. No,
We can
I
always.
hope. I'm sorry. I'm so pessimistic.
Okay. Well, apart from that, maybe I hope everyone has a good year. Just a reminder that Manila House is open, and we'd love to see you back there. And for those who haven't used their F&B vouchers, please come and you can spend them through takeouts or takeaways or dine in. Just keep us posted, and we'll see you at the next webinar, and which is going to be on February 10 at 5 p.m. And it's in the spirit of the month of February. It's about love in the time of the pandemic. Okay.
Oh God,
With Dr. Leah
that's
Bernardo.
something.
So, maybe
Okay,
that will be a little bit more hopeful than the
okay.
economic outlook.
But sorry, I couldn't be more optimistic. But really depends on us.
Well,
That's my last word. It depends on us. Okay,
all
can
right.
I leave now?
Yes, of course. Thank you
Okay,
so much, everyone. We'll
thank
see you
you.
again soon. Thanks for
Bye.
joining us. Bye.